Thanks everyone for joining us on this webinar session for Automathon. It's a pleasure having all of you with us this evening, and this will be the second webinar session which comes under the umbrella of Automathon India 2020 program, which is by Automation Anywhere and Microsoft. The first session of webinar was organized a couple of weeks back, and you guys can find the recorded session of the webinar over the Skillenza platform activity page. Now, this evening, so let me just quickly take you all through the agenda of the entire webinar. So I will be giving you all a brief introduction and an overview of the entire Automathon India 2020 program, along with the live demo session of the Skillenza platform, lead the stages, and how can you compete with the other teams who are also taking part in this particular program. And then we have some very well-renowned speakers from Microsoft and Automation Anywhere, who will be giving a session and also live demos of their platform, and also the Microsoft Azure services will also be, we will be having a speaker from Microsoft who will be taking you all through. And like I had mentioned, so this webinar is going to be more of an interactive session where you can shoot out any questions at any point of time. There's a Q&A option on the top of your screen, and feel free to shoot out any questions, and we'll make sure that we address all those questions which are being raised, which can be beneficial for all our viewers that have joined us this evening. And now let me quickly take a minute to introduce our speakers. We have Arjun S. Meda, who's the Senior Developer Evangelist at Automation Anywhere. We will be having him as one of the speakers. And Arjun, we are very glad to have you with us this evening. Thanks a lot for joining us. And also we have Vivek Sridhar, who's the Senior Developer Product Marketing at Microsoft. And thanks a lot to you as well, Vivek, for taking out time and coming and joining us all this evening to share your knowledge on Microsoft Azure services. And before I invite our first speaker for his session, like I mentioned, I just wanted to give a brief introduction and an overview of the entire Automathon India 2020 program. That is, why exactly are we doing this, and what is it in for you, and how can you actually come out with flying colors, right? So the whole idea of this Automathon India 2020 program is to bring together all developers who can build automation solutions that either leverages or operates on Microsoft Azure services using the Automation A2019 platform. Now, what do we exactly mean by this is basically, if you take a look, Automation Anywhere offers an automation platform on which you can, build software-based bots or robots, automates the entire business process. Whole idea here is to help you developers build bots that either use Azure cloud services like cognitive services or the app services, so which can be used to solve a problem or maybe something which can basically operate on the Azure cloud services as well, so that they can perform an operation on Azure cloud, for example, like an IT operation. So that's the entire, the whole idea. We have come forward with this Automathon India 2020 program, where you can submit your ideas with innovative solutions, and by building extraordinary bots or products throughout this program. Now, before we get into how, what are the perks or what exactly is in it for you guys, I wanted to give an overview of the Grand Hack and the Career Fair. So at the end of the program, towards the end of the program, we will be having a Grand Hack and a Career Fair, which will be organized on March 28th, 2020 in Microsoft Office. And the best part about this entire program is there are exciting cash prizes to be grabbed. So we have for the Grand Hack and the Career Fair, the top teams or the winning teams will be awarded with 3.5 lakh rupees. So that's a great opportunity for you all to unleash your potential as well. Now, not everyone who has registered in this particular program will be getting an opportunity to take part in this particular Grand Hack. So before the Grand Hack, we will be having a few set of quizzes, and also there's an online hackathon stage where you have to submit your project, and we will be going through all the projects which are submitted over Skillenza platform, based on which we will be shortlisting the top teams who will be invited for this Grand Hack and Career Fair. And also the best part for the shortlisted teams, among them, the top teams will also be given travel reimbursement for the Grand Hack and Career Fair for those who are residing outside Bangalore. You're wondering, why exactly are we calling this Automathon India 2020 a program in itself, right? So the reason is because we are here to make sure that we not just bring forward all the developers and ask them to do some submissions of the projects which they've worked on, but we also want to help you nurture your knowledge when it comes to automation and also Microsoft Azure. So with respect to that, we have organized a number of webinars which are lined up. So like I mentioned, the first webinar was a couple of weeks back, and the recorded session has also been uploaded over Skillenza platform, where you can go and take a look at what was in that particular webinar, because we had Mukund from Automation Anywhere, who gave an introduction about RPA and A2019 platform. And also along with him, we had another session where Abhishek from Microsoft talked about Azure Cognitive Services. Right, so that was our first webinar, and here we are for our second webinar. Similarly, we have another couple of webinars which are lined up in the upcoming weeks, which you can take, you can register for, attend those webinars and get to learn a lot. Apart from that, also we have meetups which are lined up in various cities across India, that is Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, and Pune. So meetups in Delhi, Hyderabad are already done. It was in the previous weeks which we had, and the upcoming meetups are, we have one meetup on 15th in Pune, and also we have another meetup on 29th Feb in Bangalore. So you can go to the platform and register for those meetups right away as well. Right. And then apart from this, like I mentioned, so we have an online hackathon as well in this Automathon India 2020 program, where you have to come up with innovative ideas, where you build automation solutions using A2019 platform and Azure services. And post that, apart from the Grand Hack, we also have cash prizes for the top teams who will be competing during the online hackathon. And apart from the online hackathon, we also have quizzes which are lined up over the platform. And these quizzes will also be considered while we are shortlisting the teams for the Grand Hack. I would like to urge you to go and take up those quizzes, which are focused on RPA and Microsoft Azure services. And it will also be a great opportunity for you to nurture your knowledge in those specific domains. Now, talking about the schedule, so this is what I was talking about. This particular program, we are also looking to upskill your hackathon game by, where you can take part in various meetups, online webinars, quizzes, and also there are provided by Automation Anywhere and also Microsoft, which can be used by you. And so like you can see the dates, so we had our first webinar on 23rd Jan, and you can find the recorded video over Skillenza platform. Apart from that, we have a number of meetups in Hyderabad. We had it in Bangalore, and we had it in Delhi as well. And talking about the upcoming meetups, we have the meetups on 15th Feb in Pune, and we have another meetup on 29th Feb in Bangalore. And apart from this, like I mentioned, so we have the quizzes over Skillenza platform as well. And quiz 1 is already live. The quiz 2 will be going live on 14th Feb. And then we'll be having the quiz 3 on 1st of March. So just to keep you all informed that these 3 quizzes will be dependent on each other. That is, only after you complete quiz 1, you will be able to take part in quiz 2. And once you complete quiz 1 and quiz 2, then you will be allowed to take part in quiz 3. So this is about the program itself. And like I mentioned, there's an online hackathon which is already ongoing over Skillenza platform. So you guys can maybe, I believe some of the teams have already started working on their submissions. And if at all you haven't started it yet, then we would urge you to get started right away so that you are coming out with the best solution. So please make sure that you do your submission so that we will be allowed to, shortlist your team based on the submission. And we will be announcing the shortlisted teams, and the invitations will be rolled out to the teams who will be invited between 12th March to 16th March. And post that, like I talked about the Grand Hack and Career Fair, it will be on 28th March in Bangalore. And also, like I mentioned, I'm going to stress on this point once again, the teams who are shortlisted and who will be traveling from outside Bangalore will be given a travel reimbursement as well. Like I mentioned, we have cash prizes for the online hackathon and also the Grand Hack. So for the online hackathon, as you can see it over the screen, the prize money for the first winner is 50,000 Indian rupees, and then second prize is 35,000, and the third prize is 15,000 Indian rupees. So this would be for the top teams from the online hackathon. And then during the Grand Hack as well, there will be cash prizes for the winning teams, the top 3 teams, and the first prize winners will be rewarded with 1 lakh Indian rupees, and second prize winners 75,000, and third prize winners will be given 25,000 Indian rupees. I'll be just giving a quick introduction about Skillenza. So just like this particular program, Automathon India 2020 program, we have various professionals who come up over our platform to solve similar challenges, who take part in quizzes and various other online hackathons, just like Automathon India 2020. We help professionals solve challenges and take part in those. And also the organizations, we help them host those challenges and evaluate based on the people who are taking part in this particular. Here's the resources tab where you can just click on the resources tab. And once you click, you will be able to see all the links which are provided by Automation Anywhere and Microsoft. And also Automation Anywhere has put forth a really, really good blog on how can you create a sentiment analysis bot using Azure Cognitive Services, which will be really helpful while you guys are working on the projects. And the timeline can be found here. And also the webinars, all the webinars which are being organized, which are being held or organized are recorded, and later on they are uploaded over this particular platform. So you can just click on the webinars tab and go take a look at these webinar recorded videos at any point of time. Now, once you register, you'll be able to see the View Stages button. So all you have to do is just click on View Stages. And once you are redirected to this page, you will see that all these are the stages which are open right now. So let me just quickly take you through all this. 1 stages from each of these activities, basically. So the More About You stage is where you have to fill in your details. And once you fill in your details, you will be given so I'll just quickly go through it. So you have to click on Start. And once you start the stage, you have to fill in all these necessary details which are asked here. And once you finish all these, you have to click on Submit. Now, I haven't filled these details, but once you click, you will be able to, get a notification which says that submitted. And post that, click on end stage. Now, this is something I want all of you to please take care of, because once you have completely submitted by answering all the questions, you just have to click on finish activity. But in case you haven't answered any of these questions or some of are left blank, then you can simply click on return later. So for now, I'm clicking on return later, and I go back to the activity timeline. So this will be the activity timeline, right? So I can again resume my stage since I had clicked on return activity later, right? But if you click on end stage, then you won't be able to see this button here. Similarly, for the team formation stage. So this team formation stage, you have to click on start stage. And once you start, so over the team formation stage, you will be able to, send out requests to other teams where you can ask them if you're interested to join their particular team. So I can request any of these teams, or if I want to create my own team, I can just click on this particular button and I give a team name, and yes, I can create my own team. Apart from that, there's also another option in the team formation stage where you can send out invites to specific people if you want them to join your team. So that can also be done in the team formation stage. And then, like, you can see the other activities as well. So these are the previous activities, and the quiz is live already, quiz 1. So you can just click on start, and make sure you always read these instructions, right? And similarly, you have to answer all these questions one by one. And every time you answer any of the question, you have to click on submit and continue. Once you answer all these questions, similarly, click on end stage and return later for now, since I haven't completed all the questions, right? So these were some of the stages that I've taken you through, and similarly, all the other stages for the meetup and for the webinars as well. It will be in the similar format where you can register for the webinars or the meetups, and once you register for them, we will be sending out invitations for those particular meetups or webinars whenever you're registering for them. Now, moving on with our first speaker, I'd like to invite Vivek, who's the Senior Developer Product Marketing at Microsoft. We are more than happy to have you, Vivek, and over to you. Thank you.
So the agenda is to introduce Azure. So as Azure was talking about the hackathon, which is going to happen, and for that, Azure Cloud is one of the services you need to use. And I'm going to introduce Azure and how you can host some apps in Azure, and we can take a look at the services which is essential for building a chatbot. So, and conclusion and question and answers and other things, which is definitely we can go about. And I know that there are some questions which has been posted about the Azure credits and other things. I will take a stab at where you can get started with the Azure credits, and also at the hackathon, the grand hackathon, definitely we will provide the the Azure credits to build the apps for with the RPA. Okay. So even before I start, I just want to introduce myself. So I'm a software developer. I did work at IBM India Software Labs for around 8 years. I was working in DevOps. DevOps was my favorite, and even today it is my favorite technology, or the process architecturing. So I did work with Blackberg and HCL, and I had owned my startup, and then I was in DigitalOcean, and right now I'm working in Microsoft as in the developer relations team. So that's about me. So let me deep dive into, everybody have this question, right? So how do I architect my app? And after architecting my app, how do I deploy this app in the cloud? So So the most important thing is obviously you need to build a local environment. As a developer, I need to have a local environment. I need to set up my Visual Studio uh, and Visual Studio Code, and I need to make sure that everything is updated there. I need to have my local environment, and then you can use different services to host app in the cloud. One is obviously the infrastructure as a service, which is a very simple VM, and there are PaaS layers, which is the platform as a service. So there could be a app service, there could be the container service or a Kubernetes service. I've just divided that PaaS layer also into a serverless because it is very specific to you know the next session which is happening, which is trying to build a chatbot where you're going to use some of the event driven or some of the web APIs to run some of the services. So I'll go through one by one. I'll try to demo as much as possible on the platform so that you can learn uh, the deployment of these apps in cloud. So cloud is simplified. Whatever you use, either it is infrastructure as a service or platform as a service or the serverless. The ultimately you're using compute, storage, and network. Even in your local environment, you're using these three simple model, right? You have a compute, you have a storage, you have a network. So this is the basic of any cloud. And even if you are deploying it in infrastructure as a service or a PaaS layer or in a serverless or in your local environment. From Azure's perspective, right? I've divided this into two different things. One is obviously there is a development environment, which is your local environment, which has IDE support, the Visual Studio Code you have, and there are a lot of plugins we need to install on that. And there is an integration with DevOps. There is where you can monitor logs, you can see the logs, you can visualize and debug some of the things. And from the platform perspective, there are a bunch of services which you can use, which could be functions, which is a simple executable code which is triggered over an event. Okay, and there is a logic apps where you can design the flow and orchestrate the processes, and there are event grids where you can manage the events and you can trigger some of these events. And of course there is a bunch of databases and storage solutions, and there is security, network securities with respect to different services talking to each other, and there's IoT analytics and intelligent systems. So it's from the platform perspective. And from the development environment perspective, we have Visual Studio Code with everything installed on top of it. So you need to integrate both when you're deploying an application. As a developer, you're going to use both the things. You're going to use the local environment from the developer perspective, and also you will be using the platform, which is from the Azure cloud perspective. Okay, I'll show you a demo. But when you want to start something on Azure or with anything with Microsoft, docs.com is the starting point. So if you go to the docs.com, you will find all the help you need. So this is exactly from the from your hackathon perspective. When you're building something, this is where you have to go and look for answers. So just a overview of docs.com. It's an open source project. You can definitely improve the documentation. Of course, in this hackathon, you might find so many documentations might not be updated, or something is not updated, or you need to write a new documentation. So you can do a pull request and become an open source contributor to our docs.com. Okay. So docs.com, docs.microsoft.com/Azure will give you a list of services, and you can go into each of these services and look into the services and help which you need from the documentation perspective. And you can take a there are a lot of quick starts, there are a lot of tutorials, and there is sample codes which is available for all of these services. So you can actually go in and do a bunch of things out there. Just an example, if you want to try it out, just go to docs.com and find a serverless function documentation and try choosing your language specific thing, and you will be able to see how effective docs.com is for your hackathon or for building any applications in the cloud. Okay, so let me introduce Portal. So here is where just go for Google and try um, free Azure free trial, and you'll land up in this page, and there is 12 months free trial service available. If before you come into the grand hack, you can learn about Azure services, you can build those Azure services, and all the you know all the services we have, you can use it through this 12 months free trial. And this is what we offer basically. All popular services available to you, and some credits is available for 30 days, and we have 25 plus services which is already free for you. So if you go in depth, you will be able to find, you can see what all services are available for you, and you can also see the uh, 20 21 services which is always free. So if you see that function is free for some of the requests you can use, so you can definitely start using it right away. Okay, so this is the portal, and this is home, and this is called dashboard. Here you can actually edit the dashboard and add more details into this dashboard. So there is a dashboard, and you can add new dashboard, and you can edit this whole thing. But the most important thing is the resources and resource groups. Everything in Azure is a resource. So basically, if you try to create a resource, this is infrastructure as a service. So if I'm creating a Ubuntu server, so I just have to click on this, find a resource, and click on the resource which you want to create, and it gets created under a resource group. So basically, you are grouping a subscription under a subscription is nothing but it's a billing method, and you can learn about that in the few links which I will provide by the end of this webinar. Subscription is the high level, and after that, it comes the resource group. So for each subscription, there is a resource group. Under the resource group, there is a resources. So it's basically logically, bifurcating your services and making sure you can group these services into different resource groups. Okay, so basically, let's create a new one. So uh, auto test. So basically, we'll create a new resource group, and this is the virtual machine name. You can give any name here, and then you can give regions where you want to create. And I usually choose North Central because most of the services are available there. That is for the demo purpose, but you can definitely choose India whenever whenever you are building some application for production oriented. And obviously there are a lot of things where you can do which image to choose, and size, and here is where you can play around with the costing. So you just have to click on the size, and you can uh, you know filter it out, and ascending order and descending order, and choose the services which you want to choose. So that is from the creating in a virtual machine perspective. There are a lot of other things which you need to provide. There is the password, the inbound and outbound services, and then if you see this, there is a disk, there is networking which you need to add, which is the virtual network which we are going to create, and then there is management layer, and then there is advanced layer, tags, and a lot of other things, and then it gets reviewed, and then it gets created. So you can provide all these details and get started with the portal. So once you create it, all resources which you create will be under the all resources, and you can take a look at all the resources which is there, and it is grouped by resource group, and we will see all this when I demo the pass layer. Um, and resource groups will be available here. I've already created some of the resource groups, and it is already here. So it's pretty simple. So you just need to just go and click on the create a resource and find the resource you want, and just click on that resource and get started. Okay, so that's the simple, and you can find the cloud shell here. So when you click on this cloud shell, it will give you storage. With storage, there is a CLI where you can perform various activities. So you can just create a storage and with your subscription and start with the CLI. So I'll show this up when I do the app service demo. But this is what about the dashboard. Let me go back to my slide. So let me show you before I go into the slides. Let us create an app service. So the first part, I showed you how to do the infrastructure as a service. Now we will see how to build a PaaS layer, which is an app service. So I'll just click on the web app, and you can create a new resource. So the story is the same. It is subscription, resource group, and resources. So everything in Azure is a resource. So you'll just create a resource. So the resource name or resource group name is we'll name it as auto test. We didn't create last time, we just created now, and we'll name the app service as auto 001. Okay, so then we can publish a Docker container or the code. I'll say I'll publish through Docker container, and then you can choose the operating system you want to publish this particular app, and then choose the uh, required region. So let me take Central US, and you can choose the Linux plan or create a new one. I'll just use the one which is there, and I'll change the SKU. SKU is nothing but the spec. So I'll change it to dev test. So which is F1. Uh, or I can even choose the production one. But let us go here, include. So this basically it's a free one and it is not always up. So bear with me. So F1 and then apply. And this is next is go to the Docker, and you can either choose a single container or you can do a Docker Composer. You can choose single container, and image source can be anything. So what I'm doing is at the end of this session, I'll give you a link where you can go and explore all these. What are these services which I'm talking about? There's a Docker Hub. There is a private registry which you can host, or you can also use Azure Container Registry. So all these images which you create in Docker, you can either host it on all of these, all of these services, and use any of these services. So I'm just taking a quick start, but it is available Python Hello World. So I'm just images. It's a sample image, and then there is a monitoring if you want to monitor it. It's not required from the hackathon perspective, but if it is a production you want to monitor it, you have to monitor it. So going back to review and validation, if you see, it will validate. So if validation fails, take a look at it and try and resolve it. If validation is fine, there is no issues, you can create it. So I've selected all the things. All I need to do is to create. So it will get created now. So it will take some time to get it deployed and bring up the service. By the time it does, um, let me go back to the slide. And this is where you can learn all the, okay, this is where you can learn the app service. So this is the link. You take up this link and go and learn how to build it, how to deploy it through a CLI, how to deploy it through Visual Studio, and everything. It's available through this link. Okay. So let it deploy. It takes 5 minutes. By the time it deploys, we'll take a look at some of the services like serverless. So this is very important from the chatbot perspective, from the RPA perspective. So if you are building something with RPA on any cloud, you need to understand the serverless. So the reason is I don't want to go in depth of why serverless, what it is, and I know there are questions around it. I'll give you a wonderful book where you can go and read about it. But the important thing here is serverless is something which will run a simple piece of code with an event driven strategy, right? So if I have to give you an example, we all use this site, right, to order a lot of books. Let me take it as books. We order only books. um, there are cards, there are various other small services which is available, and once you buy this book, there are a lot of things happens at the back end. So for example, you go and check out and say I'm checking out that book. uh, there is a database storage which is there, and it gets triggered. The entry, once you do the entry, you can have a trigger to calculate the tax. There could be a simple service which is Azure function, and after calculating the tax, there is a uh, payment method gets enabled, and the user can pay. Even that gets triggered. Once that is done, the Azure function starts working with fulfillment. So basically you are actually doing the actual backend work where the book is being packed and delivered to the user, and there is a tracking which gets triggered. So for all these small efforts, there is a simple piece of code which you want to trigger only when checkout happens, or only when the event happens. So that is where the serverless is more effective, and that is where the serverless comes into picture. And the most important thing about the chatbot, which is going to be explained in the next session, is that in a chatbot there is a lot of events gets triggered, and for those event to be handled, the functions which you create and deploy are the most essential things, which will provide information back to the chatbot through these services. And obviously in between you can also use the cognitive services, which was explained in last webinar, where the cognitive services provide information back to the chatbot by using some of the Azure functions in between. So it's an architecture, and you need to think about how to architect it and deploy the right product to solve those problems, which will be in the hackathon basically. So let me see. Go back to let me give you the book as well before I go and show you the whole demo. So this is the book. Basically, if you want to learn about serverless. There is a serverless cookbook which is available. You just have to go to this book and read through it, as detailed out how to build stuff on functions and using serverless, and why and which stages you need to use serverless, etc. So it's a wonderful book. So take a look at it. So let me go back and see how that is being deployed. And I'm on a F1 free plan. So it's not always up. It's in the container world. It's called three container world. Um, hot, warm, and cold containers. As of now, it's in the cold container state, and we'll have to wait for it to become a come into the hot container state. So by the time it happens, let me show you the serverless thing. So to get started with serverless, even before I go deep dive into that, serverless. Oops, I can't see. Okay, so I just want to show you how you can trigger stuff. So there are quite a different ways to trigger. I showed you one of the trigger, which was like Azure Cosmos DB in my slide, right? There is checkout happening, and there is a event which is coming into Azure Cosmos DB, and you can do the trigger. But the triggers can be various things. One, it could be an HTTP trigger, it could be a timer triggers, it could be a blob storage trigger. Blob storage is nothing but a storage, which is an unlimited storage, where you can host different objects there and access these objects via internet. It will provide you an URL, and you can use those the objects through those URLs. So there is a queue storage. There is through event grid, event grid, if there is an event grid which is happening through subscriptions and other things. So you need to learn all these things if you want to master the function and enable it, how you want to trigger these services. But the most commonly used is HTTP one. There is Azure Cosmos DB and blob storages are used. Let me go back and see if this has come up. No, this is still taking time. So so when you want to get started with serverless, the most important thing is the Visual Studio, and Visual Studio has lots of plugins, and you need to make sure that you have these plugins installed, and you can use these plugins whenever you're building something. Uh, the most for especially for doing something related to serverless in Python, you install the Python plugin, and you install the Azure function plugin, and also you need to install something called as uh, Azure Function Core Tools, which is a CLI tool where you can perform some of the actions which is required. You can see that it has a lot of help. If you just type function, you can see those uh, help which is available for you to take a look at it. Okay, so this is related to the installation you have to do from the three perspective: Azure Core Functions, Azure function core tools, and then you need to do Azure functions, and you need to do Python. Okay, you need to install these plugins for you to get started with the uh, serverless. So this is how you can deploy a simple service, but the way I have deployed is just a simple container. So what you can do is you can just package your application into a containers, or into a Docker Composer, and just deploy it onto the app service, and you can see through an API you can access it. So it's a simple way to deploy an application, and you can connect this application back to the RPA tool which is there from the uh, you know Automation Anywhere tool. And when you're building a chatbot, you can obviously connect through this APIs. So coming back to the serverless, this is the Visual Studio. I have installed all the plugins which is required from getting the serverless job done. I have already added a folder to my functions, and I just need to create a new one. So I'll just say create new one from here. I'll say serverless, and then it will ask me which kind of a trigger you want to do. As you know, there are a lot of triggers I did talk about in my slide was Azure Cosmos DB trigger, but I'll take a look at the HTTP trigger, and you just need to name it. So let's say test 001, and I press enter, and then anonymous. So it's basically authorization, like who can run this particular function. So I've given it to everyone, and the function is already available now here. So you can copy the function and copy the URL here, and copy it here. This is the function code which is there, and you can go back and try and run that URL. No, it's not working, right? It will not work because we are not running it. So what we will do, we will go back to the my terminal, and in the terminal I have created the new function called wiki test through my Visual Studio. I can just go here and run the function test. Sorry, start. Serverless is here. I should have actually run it through this. Oops. I can do it from another port. ng. Okay. Let us do it from another port. It is here. Link is ready. I should have done it from the wrong folder. So here is the function. You can see that it is running. So this is what it is running. It is asking me to provide the data. So does it work? Yes, it works. So this API is working fine, and this is how you can deploy it in your local host. So it means that I am currently working on my local environment. Everything is set on my local environment. Nothing is available on the Azure function. So right now we want to deploy this. So what we will do is we'll click on this and we'll say we want to deploy this and create a new function app and enter a global name for it. So we can same name want to, okay? And you can choose which Python you want to use, Python version, and you can choose where you want to run it. So you can, let's Southeast Asia. Okay, so now it starts creating my app in the Azure portal, and this app will now get deployed into the Azure portal, and you can see that it's creating storage account and it is creating all the packages and deploying the code into the Azure Function app on my Azure service. Currently, it was in my local project. Now I'm pushing it to the Azure Visual Studio subscription. So I'm just waiting it to get deployed. It will take some 2 minutes, which is already in the 3 out of 4 has been done. It's creating a new function app. So okay, it's got deployed. Okay, but the way you can see is you can see a lot of things being available here. You can see application settings, you can see the deployments, you can see proxies and various things which is there. You can find that in the docs what are these things, which what does it mean. But the most important thing is the deployment, where you can actually deploy through the GitHub repository. You can connect to your GitHub repository and it will get deployed. So you can automatically set, when you push something to your branch, which is set, it gets deployed to this function. Okay, so let me go back and, and it is a question. Okay, so there is a URL which is available here. You can copy the function URL and go and just type in. So the same message you will get it. So this is hosted on Azure website now. This is an API for you now. So all you need to do is the same method. Name is equal to testing Azure. So you can see that there is a message which is coming here. So this is the API which you can do. So all you need to do is, it's pretty easy. You just need to go and you know you have your projects here. You just need to edit this function and you need to define the code in this, and then you just need to go to the Azure and then deploy it and redeploy it. If you want to deploy it, you can redeploy it, or else you can deploy it through the connector. Okay, so this is as simple. It's a very simple method. So um, this is a link for the serverless cookbook where you can go back and do a lot of stuff. So I did cover the, with the given the time, infrastructure as a service, like how you can create a virtual box, and then there is an app service, and then I did cover the serverless, how you can deploy something in serverless. Most of these things is available or with the code with everything on GitHub. So this is the link. You can go to this link and you can find all the code which is there and deploy each one of these. The app service, the serverless, the infrastructure as service, the virtual box, and also Azure DevOps and everything. So you can just take a look at this link and do much more and learn much more stuff. And if you want to get started with Azure fundamentals, like learning about everything, right? The basics of Azure, from the dashboards, the pricing models, the way it is structured, the resource group and the resources, and what all services you can find. Everything is available in this link, so you can take a look at it. And this is Azure challenges. So I just want to spend some time here. So basically, I have put down some of the challenges. So if you want to learn Azure and learn all these, building all these things in productions and how to do it, how to build a containers and everything, I've already put out some resource links and some challenges where you can go through each of these challenges and try to solve these challenges. I've given sample codes. I've how to dockerize it. You can dockerize it and then deploy it and see how to do it. So there are a lot of sample codes available, and for serverless, I have given defined some of these challenges, and for AI and ML as well. So there is certain challenges which is already available. So you can take a look at it. So this is just a link for a containers and orchestration. If you want to learn container and orchestration, you can go to these links and learn about a lot of stuff. It is a wonderful book, especially the second link. It's a book on Dockerization and why Docker, how to build something on Docker commands. Everything is available out there. So thank you.
Thanks a lot for that wonderful session. It was indeed very educational, where we got to know a lot of things about the various Azure services. And we do have questions, but we will be taking in the questions towards the end. And right now, I'd like to call upon the next speaker that we have. So we have Arjun S. Meda, who's the Senior Developer Evangelist from Automation Anywhere. And he will be taking all our viewers through A2019 platform. Thanks a lot for joining us, Arjun, this evening. And with that, I hand over the platform to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, hi friends, good evening all. To just introduce myself, I am Arjun S. Meda. I'm a Senior Developer Evangelist with Automation Anywhere. And I welcome you all to this webinar, and good to know that you are all participating in this Automathon India 2020. I'll quickly take you through the agenda of what I'm going to cover. First, I'll show you about the A2019 setup. What is the URL and how do you get started with it? And then we will quickly build a Hello World bot. And I'll show you a couple of examples on various features which you can use in A2019 platform. The first demo will look around Excel, loopings, and also using Outlook to send out emails. In the second demo, we will look at a recorder option on how you can interact with objects in various websites and web application and log the data to a CSV file. And after that, we will look at the extensibility features of our platform. That is, how can you interact with a DLL? How can you write and call a Python code? And at the end, we will also look at integration with API services, where you will understand more about how would you work with A2019 platform and the Azure services. First, once you log in to the community edition of the A2019 platform, I'm currently at the home screen. Here, there are a couple of, on the left side is the ribbon which will show you, I'm currently at the home screen, and then you have a dashboard activity. The activity shows across what are the current bots which you are running. And then the bots section will show you the list of bots which you have built. And if you want to use secure credentials and save it in the credential vault, this is what you can use, the credential vault again. And on the My Devices, it will show you your device. So for example, I am currently connected, and as you know, this entire A2019 platform is totally running on the cloud. That means whatever bots you are going to build, it is all built within the browser itself. And then if you want to execute it in your own machine, that's when you will have to connect it to your local machine using a bot agent. And once it is connected to your local machine, you will see this green tick symbol with the text as connected, so that you'll be able to run the bot. And on the top right is where you will see your account details, and to the left of it is the status of the device connection. For example, currently my local bot agent is connected to my device, and that's why it is showing ready to run bots. If there is a challenge, then it will show you that you need to install the bot agent, and it will also guide you through the wizard to install the same. And device login credentials is my local device credentials, which I am passing it to the cloud so that it will be able to execute my bots on my local machine. So now let's quickly go to the bots. I'll go to the home page. To get started with a hello world bot, I will click on create a bot, give it a name. You can write the description, and it's actually optional. If you want to select a different folder structure, you can do that. I'll leave this as default. And on the top right corner, you can click on create and edit. And now, if you need a little more space for you to work on, you can actually minimize this ribbon on the left side so that you get a little more real estate. On the left side is where is the actions panel, and you can see all the commands which are available in A2019 for you to work with. For example, if you want to work with a browser, so you just expand the command and look at what are the different commands which are available under browser. Similarly, if you want to work with CSV or text files, here there are options to open, read, and close. Similarly, you can look at all the available commands for you. And then there is a trigger section. So trigger section is where you will define when do you want the bot to be triggered. And the third section is variables. Here you can define different type of variables, and accordingly you can use them in your bots. For example, I'll just click on create variable, and then now you can write a name for the bot. And if it's only going to be a constant value, and if you want to pass the values between two bots which you are writing, that's when you're going to use this, whether you are going to use this variable as an input or you're going to pass this variable as an output to the other bot. Next one is the type of variables which you can create. Click on the drop down here. You can see that there are a good number of variables which are available for you. So you can select the right variable for your particular bot. We'll look at examples when we are building the bots. Now, going back to the action section, as always, just to build a hello world bot, all I have to look is message box, which I'm going to just type it here, or you can also scroll down here. It's all in alphabetical order. So message box is here. You can either double click on this or you can drag and drop as well. And then if you don't want this, like as you can see, because I double clicked once and then dragged and dropped it once here, you can see the two message boxes. If you don't want one, click on these three dots and you can click on delete action. And coming back to this message box, on the right side, you will see the properties. This is the title for the message box. And you can also define what is the message you want to put out. So in this context, I'm just going to write hello world, click on apply, click on save, and then click on run. So as you can see, it gave me an option deploying to my computer. That means whatever bot, the simplest ones I've built, it's currently on the cloud, and now it is going to be pushed out to my local system and it gets executed from my local system. as you can see here, this is how you can just get started with a Hello World bot. Next, we will look at a couple of more demos. For that, because it's a little more exhaustive bots, I don't want to type and take a lot of time. Instead, I would show you the bots which I have built and also explain you through the steps, which will be easy for you to understand. One is called a DLL test. So what we are going to do is like, we will call a DLL and then we can pass the data to it and also get the output from the DLLs. For that, on the left side, you can just type DLL. Here, as you can see, it works with C# DLLs, and it has the options like open, close, and run function. And in this DLL, so now I have added a DLL to this particular bot using the option DLL, under that the command called open. So on the right side, I've just given the file path to the DLL, which I currently have. And the next command which I'm using is DLL run function. So for the properties on the right side, this is the session name. So what is the session name doing is like when you use the DLL command, by default, it gives a name called default itself. However, you can change this name, and in the next command, whenever you are using the function and then you're trying to connect to the previous command which you have used, so that's where the session name comes into picture, so that the bot understands which session name I'm trying to work with. Accordingly, it will be able to connect it to the previous commands. So session name, because I've used it default in the open command, I'm going to use the same session name default, enter the namespace. So this is all the data which you would need from the DLL which you are using. And again, enter the class name. In my case, visible bot methods is the name of the class. And then under that, I have a function called say hi to. And then I also want to pass the parameter. So in this case, I'm passing a parameter called my name dict, which I'll also show you here. On the left bottom, I'm clicking on variables, and you can see that I have created a variable called my name dict. So I'll just click on edit variable so that I can show you. Here I'm using a dictionary variable, and then the type is dictionary and the subtype is string. Here I've defined a key value pair. In the key, I've given the data point as name, and then the value is Arjun. So what this bot is going to do is just taking this data from the variable my name dict. In this case, the value for the key name is Arjun. So it is going to take the value Arjun, and then it will add hi Arjun. So all it is going to do is just add hi to the data I'm passing it through here. And then I'm capturing the output to a variable, which is a default variable called prompt assignment, which is of the type string. You can also define any other string variables and you can use it here. Once I am done with running this function, I'm just going to close the DLL. Again, the session name has to match so that the bot understands which DLL you are trying to close. And after that, I'm going to use a command called message box. And in this message box, earlier in the DLL run function, I had stored the output of the DLL in a default variable called prompt assignment. So that's what I'm using it here, so that the data, which is the output from the DLL, is displayed in the message box. Once you're done with this, click on run. It is going to quickly deploy the bot to your local system. And then you can see like hi there is the string which was added from the DLL in this case. So Arjun was the data which was passed through the variable my name dict in this bot. Also, talking about the different views your A2019 as, this particular view which we are looking at is called a flow view, which is kind of like a flow chart. However, if you like, there is another option called a list, where it looks like the developer view. And again, if you want to look at both the flow and the list views, you can click on dual, and then it shows both the views in the same screen. Okay, we are done with this demo. So I'll click on close, and now it takes me back to the My Bots section. Now, next I'll show you one more bot. Here, let me help you with the use case first, and then I'll show you how the bot runs. I have this sample demo website in which I have a bunch of data in a HTML table. And then I want to extract all the data from this website and then log this data into a CSV file and save it on my desktop. And I'll show you how this can be done in A2019. The menu bar is, let me go here. So now the first command here I'm going to use is browser. Again, the way you would look for it is I would just type browser and then launch website. So that's the command which I've used here. Browser launch website. On the right side, I have defined the URL which I want the bot to launch. And then I'm selecting, I want the bot to run this particular website to be launched in Internet Explorer browser. However, there are other browsers which are also supported. I'll go with Internet Explorer in this context. Next, I'm going to use a command called recorder. So recorder, what it does is like it will capture the data from the website. Again, go to the commands actions section, and this is the command which I've used. Recorder. You have to identify the window title, and you're going to run this on the Internet Explorer and then capture the entire table from which you want to extract the data from. And then once you identify this entire table, it will capture all the properties which are required for the bot to capture the data from the site. And next is the action section. So here I want to get the table from the website. So that's why you can see all the different properties which are available to interact with the particular website. In this case, I will go with the option called get table. Once the data is all captured, now I want to store it in a variable, and that I'm going to store it in a variable called customers table, and this variable is of the type table. For this, let's go to the variable section and look at our, as you can see, customers table. I'll click on these three dots, click on edit variable, and this is of the type table. Once I have the data captured into a variable, I'm going to write it into a file. Here, the input is the customers table variable, which has all the data. And then I'm going to enter the name of the file where I want to store this. Here, as you can see in my desktop, I want to store it as customers table.csv. And check this checkbox saying create files or folders if it does not exist. You can either choose to append to the existing file, or you can also choose to overwrite your existing file. And because it's going to be a CSV file, you can define the row delimiter, the column delimiter, and the encoding. And once that is done, I'm just going to close my browser using the option window close. For that, you can go to the actions section, type window, select this option. Here, the close command is available. So that's what I'm using here. And here I'm specifying the title of the window and the executable, that is Internet Explorer in this case, to close the browser. So let me run this bot. It's again going to deploy it to the local system. The Internet Explorer will be launched, and then the data would be captured and stored it on the local system on the desktop. Click on close. I'll minimize this, and this is the table which just got created. So as you can see, the data from the website is all captured into this CSV file. Now I go back to the My Bots section. Next, we will look at a Python sample. So for this Python bots to work, you need to have Python installed in your system. And here it's a simple use case again, where I'm just capturing the data from the user and then using Python, whatever we did with DLL, like where we just added hi there to the name which I am passing in. Now I'm trying to do that with the Python. For that, first I want to capture the value from the user. For that, I'll use a command called prompt. Again, on the left side in the actions section, if you type prompt, you will have options. What are you looking for? Whether you want the user to select a file, a folder, a value, or a yes or a no option. In this bot, I'm going to select an option called for value. On the right side, you can see that it is giving me an option. What is the window caption? I want to have it something like enter your name, and the message, please enter your name. And whatever data the user is going to enter, it is going to be captured in a string variable. And here I'm just using the default variable that is called prompt assignment. Next, we will look at how do we integrate Python. So look for the package called Python in the actions section. Here there are 4 commands: open, close, execute function, and execute script. First, I'll use the command called Python script open. Again, similar to how we discussed about the session name, it's important to maintain a same session name in all the commands you use. So I'll use it, I'll leave it as default. And when you're calling the Python scripts, you can either import an entire file, or you can also write the entire Python code here in the inline scripting section. So for example, I am going to just write it inline here. As you can see, this is just a simple function where whatever string it is sent to the Python, it is going to add the string called hello, and it will output the string. And then select the Python runtime version, whatever you have installed, if it's 2 or 3, it supports both. So I'm selecting 3. And the next command which I will use is the Python script execute function. On the right side, for the commands, I use the same session name that is default, and the name of the function to be executed. So we have seen that in the previous open command, we have used a function name called print me. And then I'm passing the argument. The argument, the data which I have captured from the user, is stored in a variable called prompt assignment. And that's the value which I'm passing it to the Python script. And then the output I'm capturing in a variable called Python output. That's again a string variable. On the left side, let me just go to the variable section. And as you can see here, there is a prompt assignment and Python output. If I edit this variable, you can see that it is of the type string. And once the data is captured, I will just use a message box in which I have defined the variable called Python output, which will have the data which is passed out from the Python function. And once you have this message box displayed, you can use the command called close so that the session is closed. Let me quickly click on run. So now I'll just add my name here, Arjun. Click on OK. Now you can see that the data, the output from the Python was captured, and then it's displayed to you in a message box. So this is how you can use Python scripts in A2019. You can do both calling the entire Python files, or you can also write the Python code in the inline scripting section, which I've showed you. In this example, we have looked at passing only one argument to the function. Next, we will look at a demo where we can pass two functions, two arguments to the Python function. For that, I'll just take a simple example again, where I'm going to send two values to the bot, and then the Python code will just add those numbers and give me the output. For that, on the left side bottom, I'm clicking on the variable section. I'll show you that we are using a variable called input for code, and it is of the type list, so that you can store multiple values within one variable, and the subtype for this variable is number. And as you can see, I am passing two values here. The first value is 3 and the second value is 5. So the Python code is just going to add these two numbers, and then it will display 8 as the output, which I'm going to capture it back and display it in a message box. So the same steps again. The first step is to, because I'm not capturing the values from the user, just in this example, I am not using that prompt value. However, you can do the same the way I've shown it to you in the previous bot. Here again, Python script, open command. On the right side, I'm giving the session name as default. And this is where I've just written a simple code to add the two numbers, and these two numbers are passed from the list variable. And next is execute function. And as you can see, the name of the function is S here. So in the execute function, I'm giving the name of the function name as yes, and the arguments to the function is input for code, which is a list. So this has the values 3 and 5, which it is going to pass to the Python, and then whatever value is being written from the Python function, that will be stored in the default variable called Python assignment, which is of the type string. I can also define any other user defined variables and pass it as well. For now, I'm just using this default prompt assignment, and then use a message box to display the value which we have gotten back from the Python script. And before you complete the bot, just close the same session which you have used to open the Python script. Now I'll click on run. So now, as you can see here, two values were passed, that is 3 and 5. And then the bot was able to add these two numbers and share the output back. Click on close. So now this is how you can pass multi arguments to your Python function. Next, I would like to show you on the API side, where we work with the Azure Cognitive Services. Give me just a second while I pull up that bot. So here in this particular bot, it's called a sentiment analysis bot. So what I'm going to do is like call the Azure Cognitive Services, to which I'm going to pass the data, pass some text to it, and get the sentiment back from the service. For example, I have this text called I am happy. So in this case, this is a positive sentiment. So the response is like between 0 and 1. If it is a positive sentiment, it gets closer to the value 1. And if it is on the negative side, that's when it is going to give me a value which is closer to 0. So in this case, I'm expecting a value more than like 95%. And if I use some text, something like this, website is down, I cannot access my reports from last 2 days, this is really frustrating, and I may have to change the service provider if this is not resolved today. So that means this is a negative sentiment. So that's why the output is going to be close to 0, because the value is between 0 and 1, 1 being the negative, 0 being on the negative side and 1 being on the positive side. Now let's look at how this bot can be built. Again, we can call any REST APIs. So as you can see here under REST web services command, you have these methods called delete, get, patch, post, and put. So for this example, I'm going to use the post method. I'll show you the configurations, what I have done to call the API from the A2019 to the Azure Cognitive Services. On the right side, first one is the URI, which I have set it up from on the Azure platform. So this is the URI which you have to use. And then in the authentication mode, I'm not going to use the user ID and password. Instead, I'm going to use the API key. So that's why I've selected authentication mode as no authentication here. However, here in the header, I am passing the subscription key. So as you can see here, so in the name, as you can see, I have the key as the subscription key, and then the value is what I have received from the Azure, from my Azure account. And then again, content type, whatever I'm passing, it is all in the JSON format. And in the content, I'm just passing this text called website is down, which I showed you earlier. And once I get the response from here, I'm passing it to a variable called output, which is a dictionary of strings. Let me show you how this variable is constructed. Click on variables and then output. I'll click on edit variable. As you can see here, this is a dictionary. The type is dictionary and the subtype is a string. Click on close. And then now from this dictionary, I again get the value from the body. So for that, go to the actions section, type dictionary, and again you can see there are different methods for you to use: assign, get, put, remove, and size. Here I'm using the method called get, and you can see this, the input is output from the previous web services command which I've used. In that, I'm looking for the key called body. So that means the entire text from the body will be captured, and that will be passed to the variable called prompt assignment, which is a default. Once I have that, I'll just display the entire message in prompt assignment variable, which was stored in the previous command dictionary get. And now whatever data I have captured, that I want to pass it on to the Python to process a little more. When I run the function, you will understand what the Python is doing in this case. Again, for this, I'll use the Python script open command, write the Python session name, which is default. Here, I have a function called read from JSON. And what I'm doing is like, I'm just capturing the key value pairs, and I want to see, I am going to get a huge response. From that, I want to just capture two data parameters. First one is ID and the score. The score is which will be a value between the 0 and 1. And then I want to round it off just to 2 decimals. So that's what the Python is doing here. and execute function. I'm just giving the read from JSON as the, function name. I'm passing the argument, which is the output from the previous REST web API services. And then again, from this, the Python is going to give me a response, and that will be stored in a variable called output from Python. I'll also show that variable. Click on variables, output from Python, edit variable. As you can see, this is of the type string. And once you get the response back, you can just push it to a message box. So as you can see here, this is the output from Python variable. And before you complete the bot, just close the Python script session, which you have opened earlier. Now let me click on run. Now, as you can see here, the first message box is the output which I'm getting it from the web service API. So you can see that ID is 1 and then the score is 0.06 because it is negative sentiment. So now from here, I just want to extract this ID and the score value. So that means it will first show 1 and then the score will be 0.06 only because in the Python function, I have defined it in a way that it will round it off to just 2 decimals. So I'll just close this message box. Next, you can see that the ID value was captured as 1 and then the score was displayed as 0.06. So this is how the bot can connect with different API services and also pass the output to the Python and then get that data processed in Python script and get it back to your bot. So this is how you can build end-to-end use cases of building using the own commands which are inbuilt to the platform. Also, these are extensible features where you can connect it with Azure services, or you can also write your Python script to get the data processing completed. So that's all regarding the demos from my side. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take. I also want to show you the docs portal. So the docs.automationanywhere.com is the portal where you can get information about A2019. If you scroll down, click on build section. And then on the left side, getting started, you can just click on enterprise A2019.x. Once you go here, there are all the from the simplest bots. How do you work with Hello World, with using different desktop applications, and how to work with Python, how to work with REST web service actions are all provided here for your reference. That's all, Azhar. Back to you if there are any questions.
Thanks a lot, Arjun, for that wonderful demo and a really great session. So I just came across one question by our viewers, which I would like to put it forth. So his question was, can we execute multiple functions in a single execute block?
No, it has to be one per function. I mean, one per command.
All right. Okay, sure. I guess so. Santosh is now. I hope you're clear about this. And yes, also thanks a lot, Arjun, for this wonderful session. It was great having you. And I'd also like to thank all our viewers who have joined us for this session this evening. And yes, I wish you all the very best for the Automathon India 2020 program. And like I had mentioned earlier, so this particular webinar, along with all the other webinars, will be uploaded on the activity page over Skillenza platform. And if at all you guys need to, take a look at it once again, you can go ahead and take the videos as reference. And also apart from that, the resources have been uploaded over Skillenza platform, which you can use at any point of time while you're working on the project. And yes, like I mentioned, so we have our next meetup on 15th in Pune. So if any of you are in or around Pune, then please do register for the meetup, as we have some amazing speakers from Automation Anywhere, and also an Azure specialist who will be coming off for the meetup. And thanks a lot once again, Arjun and Vivek, for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure having you, and we look forward to see some amazing products being built during the Automathon India 2020 program.